Hey, Tribe Builders, this is Tanya, and I'm really, really excited to have this person on today. I met this guy at Boutique Hotel Con, which it seems like there's only three places I've ever met people, and that is one of them. This guy is super awesome. I started hearing little bits and pieces of his life, and then we all of a sudden like hopped into a conversation, and I think my mouth was open the whole entire time. I'm like, what? You do what? Like, what? You haven't worked in how long? So I'm really, really stoked for you to learn a little bit more about this guy. There's some like viral videos I feel like that you probably have been envious when you've seen them. And I know that's a really weird thing to say, but it's going to make more sense once he talks about it because there's this really cool thing he does every summer that people like grown-ups just want to do because it's like our dreams. So without further ado, Travis, hi, how's it going?
Hey, great intro. I love that he hasn't worked in how long part. I'm like, yeah,
It's
I
true.
mean,
It's true.
there is that whole like if you if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I actually think that's pretty BS because even though I generally love what I do, there are still days I'm like, feels like work. Case in point, it's mostly with the adulting stuff. Case in point, earlier today, I had to like do my car registration, and it's been expired since last April. We've gotten pulled over twice in the last week, so I was like, I got to get this done. And I was like, this feels like work. Yet then, when I just had to run a call for people who would come in our retreat a month ago, like a catch-up call, and then this with you, which is like my job, that doesn't feel like work. So I'm like, the crappy adult life stuff feels like work. The work stuff feels like fun. So I think that's a win
That's
overall.
Yeah, that's definitely not so bad. And I still think, like, I think of work, I just think of corporate jobs. I think of like something you actually have to go to. You have to go to the kitchen to cook, like at that job, or you have to go into an office. And that is definitely not your story. So tell all the people listening, like, what makes, A, what makes you awesome, and B, like, what you got going on? Like, what have you built?
Cool. I'll let people decide what makes me awesome. I'll just tell the stuff that I do, and then they can say that's awesome or not. If we are taking it to, hey, someone is telling you you have to do this type job. The last time I did that was 2012, so it's been 13 years now, and that was when I was teaching English in Japan, in a high school, and so even that's like, well, like, yeah, I mean, they were telling what to do, but it was still a pretty cool experience. Before that, I was a high school teacher, and the last time I was in a high school classroom as a teacher was 2009. So it's been a while since I quote unquote worked. And, I'll try to keep the story as brief as possible, but basically, I was a high school teacher. I was 3 years into my career. I thought I wanted to be a high school teacher coming out of college because I enjoyed high school. My mom was a teacher. No, it was a good fit for my personality. I like being around people. I like being a part of like a team, a tribe, right? Of teachers and then students. And so you have all these connections. And I didn't dislike teaching, but I disliked the container of teaching, meaning, hey, it's 7:25 and you're walking into this concrete building and you're not leaving until 3:15 and there's nothing you can do about it. And I remember specifically going to a dental appointment on a Tuesday at 1 p.m. And it was, I believe, May. So, the weather, I was in Philadelphia at that point. The weather was getting nice. And I was a teacher and I left school early and I walked out to my car and the sun was shining. I remember thinking like, freedom, like I'm free. I was the happiest human to ever go to a dentist appointment. Like I know that for a fact because I was like, whoa, I'm out. I'm free. This is beautiful. And I'm driving to this dentist appointment. I'm going through this town and there's people out like at cafes eating lunch and walking around and all this kind of stuff. And I remember thinking, like who are they? Like what the heck are they doing? Why are they allowed to be out? Like that was my mindset. Why are they allowed to be out? And at
Oh.
that point I was like, well, this is not going to work for me. There's no way I'm making it 30 years. And so I went on a long journey. Some of that was then teaching English in Japan. So it was obviously different. It was a cool cultural experience, but I was still defined by you have to be at school, you have to do this, you have to do that. I did find some, because I was the only white person there. Like no one really knew what to do with me. So I did have a lot more freedom. Like I would just go and find this corner of the school that no one would ever go in. And I'd like sit there and like sleep or watch the NFL games like at like 7 in the morning and stuff like that. So I had more freedom then. But what really happened in Japan was we stayed for 2 years, my wife and I. And halfway through the second year, so we're a year and a half in, we knew we were not going to stay in Japan any longer, but it became this, okay, well, what are we going to do moment, right? Like we
Huh.
can go back and I can start teaching again in our school. She can start teaching, but that really didn't feel congruent with where we wanted our life to go. Um, I got a job offer at the International School of Rio de Janeiro. I had a buddy who was teaching there, and he got me an interview, and I like did the interview, and I got the job offer, and they were like, "Hey, we give you an apartment. It's a 2-bedroom apartment on the beach. We pay you like 55,000 US dollars, which for a teacher is not bad. You get all Brazilian holidays off. You get all American holidays off. Your housing's paid for, all this kind of stuff." And I thought, well, this is a dream job. Like if ever there was a dream teaching job, this would be it. And I remember looking at my wife and just thinking like, I can't do this. This sounds great, but I can't do this because I'm still going to be in a school when someone needs me to be in a school. We're still committing 2 years of our life to being in a certain location. Even if we think that location is cool, we're giving up our freedom, right? We're giving up our location freedom. We're giving up our time freedom. And at that moment, it was kind of like a uh-oh moment. The best job you could get in the career path that you had thought you were taking of teaching is something that you are not willing to take. Well, what are you going to do? And, the answer was, well, I got to start my own business. There was a fatal flaw to that idea, or at least in the beginning. I didn't know how to start a business. I didn't know how to be an entrepreneur. I had never taken a business class. I had never taken an online business class. I had never started a business. I didn't have friends who ran businesses. My parents were an entrepreneur. So it was like, what are we going to do? And I had been writing a blog. This was 2012, called Extra Pack of Peanuts. And what I was doing was helping people learn how to use frequent flyer miles and hotel points to get cheaper travel. So I had learned it living in Japan. I was like, I can open up these American credit cards, yada, yada, yada. And I can get these points. And the very first flight I took home from Japan, I flew first class home to Japan, and I had paid $5. And I remember sitting there being like, everyone needs to know this. So I start telling all my friends via email, and like most of them are like, whatever, you're trying to scam me. I'm like, I swear I'm not. And then I was like, I'm just going to start a website because I hate typing this out to people who don't care. Let me make a website and see if people who do care can come and find it. And so that had taken off a little bit while we were in Japan. I wasn't making any money off it, but it was getting some traction. I was really structured, and I was like creating content pretty regularly. And at that point, when I turned down that job in Rio, I was like, well, you got 5 months while you're still in Japan to figure out how to make money with your blog. And in my head, I said, you're going to make $3,000 a month. And if you make that, by the time you come home from Japan, like you can do that full time, right? Like that's your permission to go for it. And I figured out a way. I kind of fudged the numbers. I don't think we were exactly at 3,000, like 2,300 the one month. I'm like, okay, well, I made something. And that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. And that was 2012. We started that blog. I started that blog 2013. We started the podcast. So that's been a long time. That's been a 12-year run there with the podcast. And a lot of ups and downs, of course. But in that time, there were kind of two pivots a bit. The first was let me ask you this. When people would come to me and say they couldn't travel, they're like, Trav, you get to travel the world. Like, I want to travel, but I can't because of what?
Oh my God. It's typically money, time.
Yep.
Mainly, it's
There
too
you go. You got
expensive.
it. Yeah. Time and
Not
money.
enough
Time and
PTO.
money. Yeah. Time and money. And so I was helping them with the money part because I was like, listen, you can get flights for $5. You can use this thing called Airbnb right when it was starting. You don't have to go to a 300 a night hotel, stay in an Airbnb. People are like, what? This is a thing? I mean, I wish I had the idea of Airbnb. I have a little more zeros behind my bank account now, but I was teaching them that. And so they'd go on these trips and they'd spend way less than they thought. And then they'd
Mhm.
come home. They're like, that was amazing. I want to do more of that, but I can't because of my job, right? How come you and
PTO.
your wife, yeah, your PTO, how come you and your wife don't have to do that? Because after Japan, what we did go home to America for a little tiny bit, but
Mhm.
we were basically nomadic for 3 years. So we were nomadic for 3 years after Japan, traveling around the world, Bali, Thailand, Europe, Australia, whatever. We were just going wherever there was good flights and wherever we wanted to go. And they're like,
Yeah.
why don't you have to come home? And I said, well, my job is on the internet. And people started saying, well, can you teach me how to do that? And I thought, no, I don't even know what I'm doing. Of course I can't teach you how to do that. But obviously I was building up those skills. And
Mhm.
after a while, I met another podcaster. He was from Philadelphia as well. We didn't know each other before this, but we were both travel podcasters. And people kept asking him and I, like, you got to teach us how to build remote businesses. Like, we got to get out of 9 to 5. We got to do this. Like, we want to do what you want to do. And so eventually we teamed up in 2014. Yeah, 2014, 2015, I think, to start a website called Location Indie. And the whole thing was, we're going to help you basically kick ass in business and travel. If you have a business and it's remote, but it's not doing what you want, we're going to help you make more money. If you're stuck in a job that's taking away your time, location, freedom, we're going to help you figure out how you can create your own job or find a job that gives that to you. And
Mhm.
we came up with this idea called the Triangle of Freedom. And we said, we think if you can get these three freedoms, your life is infinitely better than someone who doesn't have it. And it was time, location, and financial freedom. So, like, if you can get a job or start your own business, that gives you time freedom, that gives you location freedom, and a big one that gives you financial freedom, meaning you're not depending on someone for a paycheck, and you're
Mhm.
kind of betting on yourself is the way we phrase it. Hey, would you rather bet on yourself or bet on this random company or bet? I mean, obviously nowadays people and even in the government don't have stable jobs. So it's like, well,
Your perceived freedom is gone, actually. Or
yeah. And
security.
so
Sorry, your perceived security is gone.
exactly. Yeah, your perceived security. I mean, and the people would come to us who were like, I thought I was going to be this company forever and I got fired, or I thought I was going to be this company forever and it sucks because I got a new boss, or they changed my role, or they
Mhm.
make me do more work. So we started that in 2015, and that was cool because I'd keep my travel site going, and then we started Location Indie, which was a paid community for people to learn skills to create their own small remote businesses so they could live, travel, and work anywhere in the world. Um, and out of that, we were doing virtual stuff and that was cool. But then we're like, we really got to start ramping up our in-person events, right? So we're like,
Mhm.
let's ramp it up. This is great. So we did like a thing in Mexico. We did a thing in Denver. And we thought, all right, these are cool. They're like small group-ish, 30, 35 people, kind of like mini, we called them experiences because we'd travel half the day and see all these cool things in that place. And then we do like business stuff half the day. So it's really
Yeah.
fun. But we thought we got to do like we got to do a big conference about this. Like there are so many people out here asking us for this. Let's do a massive conference. And then we're like, but we can't talk about a freedom lifestyle and do it in like a hotel ballroom. Like, hey,
Yeah.
have
It's
freedom and
awful.
come sit inside this Marriott, ballroom D in these chairs and like round circle tables with tablecloths on them. And so we started debating what that would look like. And we settled on this idea to do an adult summer camp. And so we would have the conference at an adult summer camp.
Mhm.
And you would half the day there'd be speakers and things like that, and then half the time you'd be out water skiing. You'd be doing like a 50-foot high ropes course. You'd be doing yoga, journaling. We have dance parties. All this. So all these fun elements of getting to be a kid
Mhm.
again and getting to play, mixed with, hey, I'm going to get to hear awesome speakers and really like push my mindset forward and then meet these people in person that are doing this, so that now I have a tribe of people who can hold me accountable and I can build relationships with. Because most people who came to us found us because they're like, yeah, people in my normal life think I'm weird if I want to leave in 9 to 5. Like they don't get it. They or like
Yep.
they think it's cool, but they can't support me. Like no one's done it. We found you because you're talking about you actually doing it. You've done it in your own life. You've
Yeah.
helped other people do it. And I thought, well, if I can get you in with people who've done it, now you have a whole new tribe to lean on. And
Mhm.
that genius idea of the adult summer camp was scheduled to happen June of
2020.
2020.
Of course,
And
it's 2020.
yeah, we started planning it at the end of 2018. It's supposed to happen June of 2020. We did run our first one September of 2021. In between COVID variants, I can't remember which ones, but in between, we snuck one in and it went really well. And then we did another one in 2023. So then it was June 2023, last year, June 2024, and this year, June 2025. So that's my journey. I know it was a bit long, but like now you can decide what's awesome or what's not awesome for yourself.
Well, and when I introduced you, I had said like there's been viral videos about things like this, and it's the adult summer camp. Like I think anytime I've ever seen any of those videos, I'm just like, oh my God, it's like Camp Nowhere, that movie when we were growing up or something with Christopher Lloyd, and everybody just to go and screw about and do, and it's so fun. So I love that you've actually married those ideas. And like, what kind of feedback do you get on like the summer camps? So it sounds like you've done a few of them. What kind of feedback do you get about the mix of, actual conference work versus the fun part?
Yeah, great question. It's always a balancing act because we want people to come and we want them to play. And so I think, have nailed a pretty great balance between that. So how it's set up is nothing is mandatory. So you could come to camp and literally so you could sit on the raft in the lake and drink beer all day if you want. I mean, we do cut you off at a certain point, but you could do that. You could go walk on, through the forest all the time. You could do the high ropes course all the time. Doesn't matter. Nothing's mandatory, but we usually have about 2 hours of speakers in the kind of like 2 hours of speaker in the morning, 2 hours of speaker at night around meals. So like breakfast into a speaker, dinner into a speaker, right? And those are really your like main stage aspirational, like people have done some really cool stuff. Like, yeah, this is possible. Like they're showing you what's possible. And then we do breakout sessions that are more action oriented. So there'll be one on like marketing and branding. There'll be one on Facebook ads. There'll be one on, more travel hacking and how to get travel points. So there'll be these specific topics that then you can decide to go to and kind of pick and choose which ones fit what you want to learn. And so if I add all that up, usually about there's like 6 to 7 hours of time where you can do that if you want throughout the day. And then there's, I would say, another 6 to 7 hours of like, hey, now go do activities, go back to your cabin and rest. Every night we have a different parties. Like, one night is karaoke, which people like who have come to me and said, I've never done karaoke before in my life, but this felt like such a very welcoming, judgment-free zone. And I think that's what we were shooting for when we started. And that's the thing I'm most proud of with this experience is that it's completely judgment-free. We rent out the whole camp. So no one else is there other than us. You're in rural Connecticut, right on the New York border on a beautiful lake. So there's no other distractions. And you get 200 people there and they're all there. Like if you hear adult summer camp and you see our messaging on our website and it resonates with you, you're the right person. And if you hear it and you're like, that is stupid or that sounds horrible or my nightmare,
wrong person.
You're the wrong person. And so it self-selects in a really cool way. And we had people, the cutoff's 21. You have to be 21 to come. But we've had people from 21 all the way up to 85 be there.
Very cool.
It's all types of people from all different types of backgrounds. There have been families who have come together. Like a mom came the first year and was like, this is so awesome. She brought her husband and her 2 kids back. There are couples who come. Like it is a really neat group of people. And because it's very judgment free, we always tell people nothing is mandatory. And also, we'd love if you did one thing this weekend that pushed your comfort zone. I mean, if you want to do more than one, great. But like think of one thing. And so I kind of lay that gauntlet down the first night, and we call it tackling a buffalo. I can give you that story if you want, but we say tackling a buffalo. It's doing one hard thing that you're like nervous of or might be hard in the moment, and when you're done it, you feel like you're a new
So
person. You're
good.
proud of it.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's karaoke. For some people, that's a high ropes course. For some people, that's just going up and talking, sitting with someone new at lunch. Um,
hmm
you know, all types of stuff. People have said,
Yeah.
like, I've never tried this breathwork stuff before. I'm going to give it a go. And then they have a life-changing experience. So providing an opportunity, a time and a space with the right people for adults. And I don't know with you, Tanya, how it is, but for me, like in my regular life, I don't have to push my comfort zones. I do sometimes, but
hmm
I'm not in places where it's like encouraged. And as adults, we're not like pushed to learn new things, to try new things. It's not on our doorstep like it is when you're a 5, 6, 7-year-old kid and everything's new. And
Yeah.
this is that opportunity to say, hey, like you don't even have to really deep dive into what you're going to do to push your comfort zone. Like
hmm
it's all right in front of you. Pick
Yeah.
something, go do it.
And just go do
One
it.
person was scared of like, not scared, but she didn't like water. She didn't love swimming. And she was like, I'm going in that lake. I'm climbing up to the top of that big blow up, like, those things
Thing.
that they have in
Yeah.
lakes for kids. Well, everything here is adult size. That's the thing. It's like, it's for adults. So it's tall, it's big. She
hmm
like climbs her way up and she's like, I'm jumping off this into the water. I'm like, all right, cool. Like we got people
Be
down there in
careful.
case you freak out. She jumped in. She was like having a blast. She came out and she's like, I feel like I just conquered a fear. I tackled a buffalo. I'm like, awesome.
That's awesome.
So
I have a question. How do you create, like, how do you guys, I know you just said, like, if you look at the website and people really like it, that's your people. And if people think it's stupid, that's not your people. Do you guys do any kind of application process? Like, because even if people think that's exciting, there's still bad eggs in groups. How do you guys deal with that? Or do you, like, it's anybody who signs up can go?
anyone who signs up can go.
hmm
We do have, like, when you sign up, we kind of have, I won't call them rules, but like we say, here's what we hold to be true, and these are our
hmm
values at camp. And if you don't feel this way, then don't sign up. We
Yeah,
have never had an issue uh,
that's
out
awesome.
of hundreds of people who have come.
hmm
That's not to say there will never be an issue, but I think because of when people find out about it, like they're finding out about it by listening to your podcast and hearing me talk about it, or listening to my
hmm
podcast, or a lot of what we try to do is people are coming from trusted sources. So a lot of our campers
hmm
will invite their friends, or
Yeah.
I'll go and speak to you because I know people who follow you are a certain type of person, and it's a
Yeah.
trusted source. And then we do say, here are our values. Like everyone is included. If you don't feel this same way, if you are coming with judgment or hatred or anything like that towards certain people, then
Yeah, like don't
do
come.
not show up.
Yeah.
Um, and, we had to navigate like a pretty dicey situation with the COVID stuff because we had canceled it once and canceled again, or like
hmm
postponed it. And, during that time, there were some people like, I'm taking the vaccine, I'm not taking the vaccine. And, we had to come up with a policy. That was probably the closest thing we had towards like a
Gotcha.
divisive thing. And we just said, here's our policy. You have to test before you come on. If you test
hmm
positive, you can't come.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I'm
And
just
like
thinking of
stuff like
like
that.
community. Well, I'm just thinking of communities in general because I know you also have a digital community. So I want you to kind of touch on that and what it looks like. And it's
Sure.
just, I know that the choosier, like, I mean, you don't have to be super choosy, but I do know that some people just don't like, they shouldn't be in a room together for friggin' 6 months. And not like I mean, even in our weekly call because they just, they just don't feel like they can be open and honest because they, have a weird thing with this other person. So maybe within your digital community, like how do you weed that kind of stuff out? Or do you guys not meet regularly enough that it, ever comes up?
Oh, our digital community meets like there's stuff happening every day. So, I mean, not
Awesome.
everyone shows up every day, of course, but
Yeah.
no, we meet quite a bit. When it has come up in the past, you know, I won't say I've been trained on this like classically, but
Hmm.
I've just have done a lot of this, and it really is just helping people find the root cause of why they're getting triggered by that person or by that thing. And
Gotcha.
when we start to ask those questions, stuff starts to come out, and there's no prescription of one size fits all, like, oh, well, here's always the answer. But it's really sitting down and asking people why, listening
Mhm.
to them, helping them understand it, and then deciding on the course of action from there.
Gotcha.
Mostly, it's almost always people just wanting to be heard and not being heard and not giving themselves permission or space to understand why that is triggering
Hmm.
and how maybe they can move past it. So I will
Gotcha.
say that we do camp, and like I said, there's not an application for camp. Um
Hmm.
and we've never had a problem. But when we do our smaller retreats, so we just ran one this in January, and we're doing another one next January, and those are in Mexico, and those are very deep inner work spaces where we're doing breath work a couple times a day. We're going to Mexican sweat lodges with the chief of the town, and like it is a very open container and open environment.
Yeah.
Even more so than camp, because there's just less people and it's for six
Yeah.
days and that's the nature of that work. And my partner
Hmm.
and I, who facilitate that, he's very well trained on running breathworks and deeper inner work and stuff like that. Then there is a process where anyone who wants to come, we talk to
Hmm.
them at length
It's
sometimes
one-on-one
about,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and then it's like,
Gotcha.
then it is. So we do that for that smaller group stuff.
Hmm.
And again, to this day, haven't had a problem that hasn't been able to be solved in the moment. We like this last retreat, we had someone say like, when this person does this, it's triggering me. Okay. Or another person like, I don't like being roommates with this person because of XYZ. Okay. And so,
Hmm.
we put out
You
those
work
small
through it.
fires, but I think 95% of problems are solved. And you probably know this as someone who builds tribes and communities. If the people leading it and the ethos of it is so strong that it really does help people self-select.
Hmm.
Um, Not every time perfectly, but enough
Yeah.
that your whole thing stays together, right?
Yeah, and I've been part of groups, and that's some of the reasons I'm asking these questions because I've been part of groups. Like I've seen people get removed from masterminds because they don't align with what they need to, or they're making other people uncomfortable, or whatever it is. And it doesn't mean that they were just thrown out, just because of something that happened. But it's more of like there's a certain, kind of somebody. But it's cool that it seems like a lot of yours, it just kind of naturally comes to what it needs to. Okay, can you tell me what you think? Like you've done some pretty big, cool things at this point. Like I find them to be cool things. It doesn't mean everybody thinks that, but I don't care.
Well,
I
we're the
guess
ones
I'm
on
the
the
host,
podcast,
so I get to do
so
it.
yeah, yeah, okay.
So it
You
doesn't
guys can
matter what
stop
other people
listening
think.
now if you don't think it's cool. And if you do, we'll keep going.
Yeah, yeah. But this is like, I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs deal with self-limiting beliefs. They're like, I can't do that. Oh my God, that's too big. Like you've had a long run of like doing things that are completely outside of a lot of people's comfort zones, or they're just things that people wish, like there's plenty of people that say they live vicariously through me, and I'm like, how about you just go live? But tell me about your like do you ever deal with self-limiting beliefs? What do they look like?
I mean, every day, all the time. Yes,
Yes.
100%. I mean, constantly,
Yeah.
constantly. I think self-limiting beliefs are a consequence or reaction to pushing your comfort zone. Like if you're not pushing it, you won't have them. And if you are pushing it, I don't know a single human who hasn't had them,
Hmm.
because you're trying to do something that you have to believe in because you haven't done it before and you haven't proven to yourself you can do it. So
Hmm.
you have to like, of course you're going to say, well, I've never done it. So where's the proof of it, right? We're humans. We want to stay safe. We want to stay secure. Our brain and our nervous system's biggest function in our life is to keep us safe. So we're working against a lot of inertia to keep us safe and comfortable. And the way it shows up in our lives is through limiting beliefs. And, I mean, I've had a ton. I'll give you one that's like super appropriate for this and for camp. So we've now run camp. This will be our 4th year. So first year was weird, COVID. We actually had a lot of momentum, and then we couldn't do it for a year and a half. And we had 60 people come to that camp. 60 people stay with us the whole time through a year and a half, and I'm coming to that camp. It was awesome. It was great. But the next time we did it, the guy who was the camp director was like, well, I need a minimum of 125 people. Like, you have to guarantee that to rent this space out. You're renting the whole thing out. So, I mean, that comes out to $95,000 that I owe this camp director to book his space for a weekend. And so I'm like, all right, I'm not of a place where $95,000 is a drop in the bucket in any form or fashion for me. So I'm like, well, shoot, this is a big commitment. And I will say that that's typically where my limiting beliefs happen, is around money. Probably the same for quite a lot of people.
Yeah.
For me, it manifests itself as frugality, or you got to earn it, like bootstrap everything. Don't spend it till you make it. Like, that's how my parents were. It was always like, well, now we have this, so now we can do that. But that is not a bad way to do it. I've done a lot of businesses that way in my life, but it also makes things a lot slower and puts ceilings on you until you continue to step up, because money is a constraint. So for me, money is a lot of a constraint a lot of times. And so anyway, we did the camp, and I said, all right, we're going to commit to this. And going into it, I told the whole team, we were in agreement, if we don't get 125 people to sign up for this second year, that's the minimum, we can't do it again. Like, we're giving it our best shot. And if we don't do it, this is the thing I want to do most in this world. But if we don't have it, let's take emotion out of it and just say, all right, we can't do an event that loses us that amount of money. And so I spent probably 5 to 6 months before that camp, full time, basically trying to get people in. And we got 115 people to camp. And I remember sitting there thinking, I worked harder. I mean, I know you say I haven't worked hard in a while.
No, that's not true.
But for that one, I worked harder than I had in such a long time. And I was just like, we're doing it. And it didn't work. And so I had to face that demon, basically, and say, and I also had to honor the commitment that I made to myself and to the team and say, we're all going to feel great about camp because we know people are going to love it, but we just can't do it. Like, I can't spend 6 months of my life to do something that doesn't make us money. We have to figure something else out. And so we're at camp. Oh, this is awesome. Everyone's loving it. Like, everyone, people coming up. My buddy Andrew, I didn't know him at the time, but he was a new camper that year. He came up to me. I remember the breakfast on the first day. So it was like, you come in the evening and then you have breakfast the next day. So he had only been there 12 hours. And he comes up to me. He's like, I've never been around people who make me feel so at home. Like, this is incredible what you've created. Like, I feel like you're a brother to me and you don't even know me. Like, I can't believe how great I feel. And we just got here. I can't wait to come back next year. I'm bringing everyone. And so, of course, in my head, I'm like, well, I'm not going to burst this dude's bubble and tell him there's not next year. But I'm like, all right, let's have a good time, right? So I have to stand up on stage the last day. And it has gone so much better than we even thought, as far as the actual experience people are having. But I was like, well, here we go. So I stand up the last day on Monday and I'm like, hey guys, really glad you had a great time. Camp is incredible. I feel like this is my life's work, but we're not gonna be able to do it again. And everyone's like, what? Why? You're not doing camp again? How? You have to do it again. And I said, listen, there's only one thing that's hard about camp. That's getting people here. Everything else is I can take care of. The team can take care of. The staff at the place is incredible. I said, there's one thing that's hard. It's getting people here. And I said, we owe them. I was just super honest. I was I'm like, hey, I owe this guy who's a camp director $95,000 every year. And I can't take this big of a hit every year. So we just can't do it. And they're like, what if we got more people here? And I was like, all right. So my limiting belief was I have to work harder to make this happen. And because I put in as much work. Yeah, I'm the only person. And I
Mhm.
said, all right, I'm going to put it up to you guys. You got people here. If we can, you got 115 of you. If we can sell 75 tickets in the next week, I don't even have a way for you to buy tickets. Like, I'm going to have to go make a payment page that you
Yep.
can buy. And I'm like, if you come to me in the next week, we sell 75 tickets, then that'll make me feel like we can do it again. And
Yeah.
I'm like, but it's totally up to you because that's the one constraint, getting people here and I did as much as I possibly could. And so I left it at that. And so, like, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, people are buying tickets. We're at like 30 tickets, 40 tickets, 50 tickets. I'm like, all right. And then I'm like, dude, what if I get to like 65? Again, like, just miss it.
Uh-huh.
And, Thursday night, we're at like 55 tickets. I'm like, all right, I don't think we're getting there, whatever. Friday's the last day people can buy tickets. And by the time Friday evening rolled around, we had sold 146 tickets.
Whoa,
And I
what?
remember, yeah, and I remember sitting there like, we
How
only
did
had
that happen?
115 people there, but like people just started telling their friends, like, you need to come
Yeah,
to this. You need to come to this.
referrals.
Like, this is incredible. And I remember sitting there thinking, okay, like, you put in all that work and you thought it had to happen on your own timeline. And
Hmm.
yet, the big lesson I learned was like, it may happen and it might not be on your timeline. And also, you need to accept support and you need to trust others around you that they can help you. Like, you're not the only one to do this. They can help you do it. And they just showed you that. I mean, it's like, honestly, the easiest business thing I've ever done. The hardest business thing was 6 months trying to get 125 people. The
Trying to get
easiest
those
was
few
one
people.
week saying one thing and doing it. And so, it that has always been a limiting belief of like, I'm the only one who can do it, not because I think I'm amazing, but just because it's hard to give up the control.
Yeah. Huh. But have
Yeah.
you learned? Okay, wait a minute. So now you've had this lesson. So do you apply it to more things? Do you actually like what I just got out of the story is that you realize you need to rely on other people and let go a little bit. So do you do that? I'm sure you still butt up against it sometimes, but do you actually have something in your head that you're like, oh yeah, I need to apply this to that as well?
Yeah, it's camp again, interestingly enough. So, yes, I try to do it, but it is that is a difficult thing for me, giving up control. So we
Hmm.
run that camp, 146 people like sign up, and then we end up at like 175 people total, right? For so
Hmm.
so that's last year we had 175 people there. So I'm like, great, cool. Uh I want us to have 125 people to sign up for the next year. So, like, we're covered. Our minimum's covered right out the gate. And I tell
Hmm.
everyone again, hey, if you can get me to 125 people, we'll be good. Thinking, we got this in the bag. Like, last year we had 115, we had 145 signups. Now we have 175. We're
Hmm.
golden. Doesn't happen again. So then we get like 110 people. And at that point I said, all right, you could cancel it for this year, the one coming up, or you could just like trust. So again, that was that control thing. I was like, I set a number, we didn't hit it. What part of me is deciding not to do it, right? and
Hmm.
and I just said, we're going to go for it, and I'm going to give up control, I'm going to trust it. And so right now we're sitting at like 120 people signed up for camp, and my goal is to have 200 people at camp. That would be a great number. From there we could go bigger if we wanted, but it's like a nice stabilized number in our 4th year of doing it, that
Hmm.
like is a bit of growth, but also just has a it's an infusion of more people, right? Of new people and new blood
Hmm.
and things like that. And so we're sitting at 120 tickets as I say this. And I'm doing a manifestation course and it's a month long. And so basically she's like, well, what do you want to have by the end of March? That's a stretch goal. And I was like, well, the only thing on my mind now is camp and getting enough people there. Like, I know it's an incredible experience. I'm not worried
Hmm.
about the product, quote unquote, of camp at all. I know the people
Hmm.
who come love it. Like, it blows away everything
Yeah.
else that we do. That and the retreat, as far as like the testimonials, the people coming back, the
Hmm.
life changing work that happens. So I was like, well, I want to have 200 people at camp. So I want to sell 75 tickets in the next month. Like,
Hmm.
and knowing that 4 months out is not usually the time people buy tickets. They either buy it way in advance or they buy it
Yeah.
way at the end. So we're in this
Yep.
like doldrum of ticket buying season.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, I want to have 75 people. I want to be at that 200 number or right, whatever, 195 by the end of March, because from there we can either say, let's go get more, or we can say, this is good. Let's just focus
Awesome.
on the
Let's go.
experience of
Yeah.
camp. And
So,
I don't know. I mean, that's giving up control, because I even wrote in my journal, like, I have no idea how this is going to happen. And yet
but you're just gonna let
it
it be.
will happen. And what happens, I told you this right before we got on. What happens 3 hours after I set that manifestation and write down how it might happen, but not being beholden to it? I get a text from you saying, hey, you want to come on the podcast? I need one for next week. Let's get on. And I thought, yeah,
Well,
we're talking about building a tribe and building a community. Like, this is what we do. So there's a way that it could happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it will. Like, I don't know. I guess I know that when I put an intention out and not be super crazy about it, like the stuff that comes out is really, really fun. It can be really cool. So, it's probably a good way to start living.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple of quick questions. What do you think your superpower is?
Connecting people.
Yeah. Okay.
I connecting people and curiosity. My wife jokes, she's like, you could sit down next to any human and you would have an hour conversation with them, and you would continue to ask questions well past the point of everyone else getting bored. And I just am insanely curious about everyone.
Awesome.
That's why I started a podcast 12 years ago. That's why we still do it. That's why some of the podcast interviews go 2.5 hours, because I mean, those
Just
are
want to ask
the
questions.
exception usually, but just super curious. And I think that allows, I mean, it's fun for me. I love it. So it fills up my cup, but it also, a lot of people want to tell their story. They want to be heard, and they might not have that in their life. And I willingly want to hear it. And I would say on top of that, the other kind of power that comes out is like, I will write a message to someone that I haven't talked to in 5 years and not feel weird. I'll be like, hey, you popped into my brain. Or some of the ones that even feel a little weird to me, I'll like send it, like I'll have a dream and I'll remember the dream. It'll be someone from high school. And I'm like, all right, this is going to sound a little creepy, but I'm still going to do it anyway. I'll send like a Facebook message to someone I haven't talked to since high school. I'll say, listen, man, I had a dream about you. You might think this is creepy. I just wanted to tell you, here's why I'm telling you, because this X, Y, and Z happened, and I'm thinking of you. I have yet to have that like limiting belief or that negative side of someone be like, oh my gosh, you're so weird. At least I have yet for anyone to tell me that. Maybe they think it, but it's always like, whoa, I follow your journey. What are you doing? Like, it has always led to really great reconnections. And I think most humans would not do that because they feel weird. And I just usually don't feel weird. And if I do, I say, well, I feel weird, so I'm going to do it. Let's push his comfort zone and see what's on the other side.
You might be the male version of me, because I'm always bothering my husband. I'm just like, he'll tell me something that just he thought of. He'll just start chuckling because he saw something and he, thought of his buddy Jason from high school. And I'm like, so text him, call him and tell him that you thought of him, this random thing. People love it because it takes them out of the mundaneness of their own life. So I'm really happy that you do that. That's super cool. Next question. What's the best advice that someone has given you that you've actually used?
That I've actually used.
Mhm.
I would say one that is most present for me now in this moment is, and I'm using it, but it's a struggle. So I think that's why it's important, is don't worry about the how. So keep your vision and go for what you want. Don't worry about how it's going to happen. Now, that doesn't mean don't do anything, but what it means is, like, to take it back. I know that we're talking about this stuff around camp, but this is just what's present for me today in these last couple months. Is like, all right, I want to sell 75 tickets. cool, there are a lot of ways that can happen. I'm going to start walking down those paths, but I have no idea which one of them is going to work. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm guessing it's not going to be 75 tickets coming from one specific thing, but you never know. Like I have
Hmm.
people I know with massive communities that if they were like, yeah, we're going to come, we'll promote to our community, we'd sell 75 tickets in 10 minutes. Now, I don't have that size of a community, but
Hmm.
people I know do. So maybe that is one way. Maybe it's little by little. Maybe it's friends bringing friends. Maybe it's a group of like you're in a mastermind or there's some masterminds we know who are like, we should bring our mastermind to camp. Maybe it's 5 of them or 10 of them.
Hmm.
So not like just releasing the how is
Yeah.
something that is incredible advice, harder to take than it sounds, and something that I am every day working on. And
Yeah.
it's really top of mind for me.
Yeah, that makes me think of the book. There's a book called Who Not How. And it's, I mean, in a way, you're really just looking for the who's. You are, because right now you are like, who can connect me with the people that are going to, want to do something like this? And can you tell me what I'm going to use the word avatar, but what's the avatar of the person? Like, I mean, for your digital group, for your community in general, like, who are
Yeah.
you looking for?
It's it's funny because there's no like they make you do those things of like what age, what's gender, what this that, and I've done that a
Mhm.
thousand times. I've taught that, and we kind of nailed that down for marketing purposes. But the bigger overarching thing is people who want to lead a more fulfilled life. So they're sitting there and they're saying, "I know there is more. I'm not even sure what that more is, and I certainly don't think what I'm currently doing is going to get me there. What can be that spark to help me figure out what that is, or if you know it, to then go after it?" And
Mhm.
that really encapsulates our who. Um,
Awesome.
Traditionally in our coaching, it was the phrases we used are like, "Are you burnt out on your 9 to 5?" Because what we were coaching was people how to build a business. Now, like for camp, yes, you can learn that. Yes, people come to learn how to build businesses or grow their businesses, but you don't necessarily need that because maybe you're retired and you just want to meet people who are awesome
Yeah.
travel partners or whatever, or maybe you have a business you like and you're looking for people to co-create with. So
Mhm.
it really comes down to that. Like I feel like there's a hole in me a little bit. Most people we talk to are content with their life. So that's another like misnomer. Like uh, I usually ask people when we run our workshops, where are you from 0 to 10 on your life, like on your contentment with your current life? And Tanya, it's interesting. Originally when I asked that, I thought most people would be like, "Oh, 1, 2, 3, I need a change. Life sucks. Let me get to here." There are people like that.
Mhm.
Most people fall between a 5 and a 7.5.
I
They're
was gonna
like,
say 7. 7 is what
yeah,
I would assume.
the most common answer is 7, right?
Mhm. On
Life's
everything.
fine. Life's good. Like I
Mhm.
have a lot of good things I'm grateful for in my life. And also, I know there's more. Like
Mhm.
I want to be a 10. I want to be a 9, a 10. And so really that's the people who find our work and resonate with it is like they're open and willing even if they're scared, because not even if they're scared, they probably are scared. You're open, willing, and probably scared to go after something that makes your life a bit better. And you're just like, man, if I could have that spark, if I could be around people who are filling me up and like encouraging me to do it and supporting me, I could learn from people who have done the thing that is the spark, like that have taken that 2 month long trip that like sparked who they were, have built that business. If I can be around those people and be in that environment and be in that energy, that would help kick it off. And those are the people that are our avatar.
That's awesome. I know. I feel that in the fact that you need to be around people that make you feel like you can have ideas, that you can talk about your ideas and the stuff and just kind of supportive. So I really love that you guys build that. I have one last question, and you told me you're an open book, so that's the reason I'm going to ask it. So I
Perfect.
would
I
listen
love
to
it.
this. Yeah. Okay. So I know people ask me about this because I don't have a job. I don't have a corporate job. I used to. My husband does have a job. That is what pays the majority of our bills. Is that, and then my money kind of goes to our investments, it goes to our fun travel and things like that. So I think of you and I'm just like, how the hell that guy afford his house? Like, I know you live on the beach in North Carolina. It's awesome. I know you have rentals. I hear that you run a summer camp, which I'm certain that you run with somebody else that makes money too. And then you have a digital community. How do you regularly pay your bills? Because you also have a family too. So tell me about
Totally.
it.
This is a great question. I will give you
Mhm.
every number you want to hear. So,
Yeah,
summer camp to this day doesn't really make us money. In fact, it
I
usually
figured.
loses us or we break even.
Yeah, but it's
Now,
fun and
that's
it
not to
fills you
say,
up.
yeah, and that's not to say it won't make money. Like I'm holding the
Mhm.
vision, it will. But yes, then I do run retreats with a buddy, and those make us money. So we probably pull in about $30,000 a year with those retreats.
Mhm.
The online community used to make us money. I mean, it depends. Like kind of the online community and the products that I did with my friend then. The most that we capped out with, and this was probably 6, 7 years ago. I think I took home 150 to 160,000. So that was like our peak. So that was good for doing work that we loved. That's not the case anymore. That business, because we focus on our stuff, specifically me, real estate, is kind of essentially just paying for itself. It's essentially break even.
Mhm.
Our rentals, we have the house that we live in. We rent it out in the summer, and this is kind of an interesting story. So we went from having a $225,000 mortgage um, to buying this house for $650,000, which is crazy cheap for a beachfront house. And we bought it 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago, before the market popped. And it is, I will say, that one decision has made me more money than
Mhm.
any other piece of work I've done combined in the last 5 years. Now, we're not
I know.
selling it.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Mhm.
I get it, fake money, fake equity, or not fake equity,
Mhm.
but it's there. But I mean,
It's
this house,
equity that you can't tap into
yeah,
necessarily unless you want to HELOC it, but then you have bigger bills and that's a whole thing
yeah,
too.
and like, we don't want to move out of here, but if we had to, we could. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's made us, I'm using quotes, $1 million. Like we could sell it for 1 million more. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So
Does
great
it pay for
decision.
the whole summer? Like the no, but does your renting out in the summer, does it pay for your whole year's mortgage and all of your bills or something? Or is
Pr-
it close?
uh used used to Insurance goes
Uh-huh.
up. Plus,
I
so
guess it is
so
kind of a weird couple years.
I'll put it this way. We so the point of telling you those numbers is when we bought the house, we were like, this is crazy scary. Like we know this is a good
The
deal
big
and it should probably
mortgage.
be $900,000, but like it's COVID and this lady's underpriced it and whatever. But
Yeah.
like this is
But six hundred
we're
fifty
not
thousand dollar mortgage from a from an under $300,000 mortgage is a big
yeah,
jump. Like, yeah.
totally. And so the only way we could do it, the only way I rationalized it in my head was like, we're going to rent it in the summer and we're going to have to leave. And that should like pay enough that like, offset some costs. And so that's
Yeah.
what we have done for the last 4 years. Now we do rent it for more and it's doing better than we originally planned, which is great. Um,
Mhm.
and it essentially 1 week in the summer pays for basically 1 month of mortgage. So we rent it anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks in the summer. But then, of course, and I say why it doesn't cover it completely anymore is like now the trips that we take before it was like, well, let's go home and stay with my parents during the summer, not pay anything. And now we're like, no, we might do that for a little bit, but we want to do stuff. We want to have experiences with the kids. They're 7 and 5. Like last year we went to Europe. So it like covered our trip to Europe and let's call it, and half of then went to like pay the mortgage, right?
Yeah.
Um, so it's a great house hack. It works. I will say then the other two investment properties we have two sets of 3 units each, also on this island that we live on, and the one makes us money, but we've never pulled a dime out of it. Which so like that's nothing's coming in there. The other has yet to even turn a profit. It will, but we bought it later, so it's kind of there. So everything we've made, we've reinvested. So people are probably listening, like, "Well, okay, this doesn't
Yeah.
really
So
add up."
how are you
Um,
paying for food, Travis? Because eggs are
yeah,
$12 a dozen.
exactly.
Blah
So,
blah blah.
so a few things. So one, I had saved when we were making more money with our other online businesses, like I told you,
Mhm.
capped out at like 160. So like I didn't need that much to live off of because just my wife and I then. I had built up a bit of a fund that was in the business account. And now I've just said, all right, well, we got to tap that to live the life that we want. And we have other
Mm-hmm.
things happening. My wife has just started her business 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. She does an interior design business. It's starting to take off. So she's bringing in some money. And we actually had this conversation yesterday. She's bringing in enough money now to like probably pay most of our living expenses, with me supplementing like with the stuff that I make, right? So like call it roughly break even with what she's making and what I'm making, right? But that's not how we want to do it, because I want her to be able to pour fuel on the fire of her business and not spend the money for us to live, but say like, yeah, go hire this person, go do that, go do that, go do that. So you
Yeah.
don't have that constraint of money that we talked about. So that's where we're at now. We're at a point where it's been a bit like, this is where the mental stuff has really come in the last 2 years, because for
Yeah.
10 years, I wouldn't say we skated by, but like I worked hard, but I knew what I wanted to work on. It did well. And we were making more than we were spending. And now there's a bit of that faith where you're like, all right, the pivots we've made, the real estate we've made and dumped money into has on paper made us a lot more than us working.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have faith that, or you have to sell it, right? But like you have to have this faith, like, I made a right decision. I
Mm-hmm.
might feel like more scarcity mindset now because like my income is less, but in fact, my net worth is quite a bit
Mm-hmm.
more. You know, I bought a Bitcoin for $7,000, whatever, 8 years ago. Now, I mean, today it's worth 84,000. Like last month, it was 100,000. So like I've done some investing in crypto, but again, I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea of like, oh, Trav made a chunk and like he has so much money, he
Yeah.
doesn't have to do anything. I think that point is coming, and I think it's coming for our family in
Yeah.
3 to 5 years, but we have to get there. And that's again, that's, we talk about limiting beliefs. That's where a lot
Mm-hmm.
of limiting beliefs come in. Like,
Mm-hmm.
are you making the right decision? Should you, just go back and work for money again? Like, should you? And
Yeah.
I'll tell you this.
Well, and
Here's what's
there's no safety with a job anyways. Like you kind of said it in the beginning, is like I know all kinds of government workers that are my friends that their jobs have not been cut or anything, but everybody thinks jobs are secure or security is equals a job, a 9 to 5. But it kind of seems like we're just all proving it's not true.
Yeah. And being totally open and honest with you here, I actually had a buddy the other day who's an entrepreneur who wrote me a message. He goes, dude, I just took a job and I feel really happy about it. What do you like? I need your thought, because he said, I feel like I should feel crappy and I feel happy. And he's in a very
And he's
similar
so
situation
relieved.
where,
He's relieved
yeah,
because
where
now he knows that he's going to get a paycheck. Because entrepreneurs never know if they're going to get a paycheck because we
and
have to
so
write the damn check.
yeah. So I said, dude, and I told me the company he was doing and all this kind of stuff. And I said, for so long, you and I have thought of entrepreneurship as being a solopreneur, right? Hey, I'm bootstrapping a business. I'm building this stuff up. It's
Yeah.
only me. And I said, I never want to do that in my life ever again. I have no desire to build anything on my own ever again. My
Yeah.
life's mantra at this point is do cool projects with people I love. So I said,
Yeah.
that idea of entrepreneurship as a solopreneur is dead to me. So when you say you started working for this company, and what he's doing is, I'll just share it really quickly. It's like he's working for a company, but he's helping people who want to buy franchises basically figure out what the best franchises are for their life,
Like a
like the
franchise
lifestyle.
broker.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I said,
Mhm.
this is awesome, man. Like, I love talking business, but I don't want to teach someone how to build their own business anymore. I've done that. I don't even really want to build my own business. Real estate
Yeah.
is another animal. I'll build the business
Mhm.
if real estate is the goal, but like
Yeah.
a business for business sake, I don't want to do. And I said, but I love talking about it and I'm really good at it. And so is he.
Mhm.
And, and I'm really good at helping people understand what they should do for their lifestyle. And so is he. And I said, dude, this is entrepreneurship for you. You get to get on calls when you want. You get to work with people you want. You get to help
Mhm.
them. All the leads are coming to you from this other company. I said, when they're hiring again,
Let me know.
you think it'd be a good fit? He goes, you'd
I'll
be
take that
perfect.
job.
Whenever they're hiring again, you should be in. And I said, dude, that's how important. To take it full circle, I may in the next year, who knows, have
Mhm.
a job again. And I feel
Mhm.
awesome about it because it's a season of
Mhm.
life where I'm like, if the job is a right fit,
Mhm.
great. If it gives me time and location freedom, and then again, remember there's 3 points to that triangle, and then helps me not feel so scarcity mindset on the financial freedom,
Yeah. Yeah,
great.
that's great. It's so great.
So
I agree. I mean, I know a lot of people who've gone back to a job. I've known people that go in and out of jobs. Like, I don't think they're terrible things, honestly. Like, if you all, I think the one shining thing about entrepreneurs is we will make whatever we have to work, whether that's having to go get a job or if it's selling more or selling something so you have money, it doesn't matter. But I wanted to ask that question because that's honestly what I was thinking. I was like, man, like, because people, I mean, I swear, like, even my family sometimes is like, what do you do? And I'm just like, I kind of like just get to do whatever I want. And that's the freedom that I've built that I love. That's what I really, really love. And I think that's the cool part about entrepreneurship is you have to figure out what the heck you love and what you want because what's worth it. Because to some people, they hop into entrepreneurship and then they're like, this is freaking lame. Like, I don't really want to do this. I want to go back and work for $120,000 a year for somebody else and get 4 weeks off a year. Like, that's cool because now like I have all kinds of weeks off, but it doesn't matter. I'm still working. Like, I always, like, no matter what, the business begins and ends with me in the fact that I'm always responsible for it. So, I understand a job equals freedom after you've spent so much time in entrepreneurial land.
and if and again, if it falls into that doing cool things with people I love bucket, then I don't
Mhm.
care if someone's calling it a job or
Mhm.
Trav's business or whatever. If that, again, job that my buddy Steve took, he was like, one of the things I'm so excited about is I've been a solopreneur for so long. And yeah, I go to conferences, I'm in masterminds and stuff like that. But like,
Yeah.
it fills it up, but not all the way. He's like, this team, every single person in that business is a business owner. They have to be an entrepreneur because they're not going to let you talk about what franchise someone should do if you haven't gone through it yourself. And so
Yeah.
he was like, now I have like 20 people work for this company. We're meeting every day on quick things. I like feel filled
It's
up
a
from
team.
them
Yeah. Like there's
and we're on a
literally other
team.
humans.
It's
Uh-huh.
back to what we talked about. It's a tribe. And who cares if it's a tribe that like you're the owner of the company or not the owner? You're
Hmm.
part of a tribe of people that you like. And so, yeah, I in 6 months, I mean, to answer your question, like in 6 months, maybe my wife's business, I mean, she's manifested the crap out of her business. Listen, it could very easily take off, and I'm like, I don't need to go do that. Or in six
Yeah.
months, Steve could come say they're hiring someone, and I could say, great, let me
Yeah.
let me let me do this. Or there's a
Yeah.
probably
Like you
15
can't
things.
even, yeah, you won't even be able, you don't even know what the heck's going to happen. Like
Yeah,
you can
or we
always
sell a
have all
rental
these
property.
intentions. Yeah. I
That
love
like
that because that's one of the things that I miss about corporate land is just being on a team, just being on a team with
mm,
people and getting to talk to people and stuff like that. So I think entrepreneurship is like, there's a reason that everybody talks about how lonely it is. And it's because it is. It's a
yep.
different vibe. And you can build a team. You can totally have a team around you. You can rent an office. You can have people come in. You can do daily Zooms. It doesn't matter. You still like again. It begins and ends with you. And when you build a team, you're still kind of the boss. Like I mean, not like it's not a bad thing or anything. It's just there's certain problems in your business that you shouldn't be telling your employees about. You need to be telling your tribe, your peers, somebody else about that.
And I should tell you the biggest thing that for me with entrepreneurship that's been weighty over the last couple of years is just the decision fatigue. Because like you said, everything starts and ends with me. And I don't want to have to make all those decisions because one, um, some of those decisions, I'm not the best person to make the decision,
Yeah.
but there's no one
Yep.
else. And so, we're going in, I didn't even talk about this, but we're building a resort in Belize, right? A micro resort in Belize right now. And we're part of a team. And it's everyone who came to our retreat last year, not everyone, but 5 people who came to our retreat in Mexico was like,
Hmm.
let's go in and do this project together. And it has felt so light for me where it's like, Trav, what are you good at? All right, you're great at figuring out what units we're going to put on here, how we're going to build these, what the big vision is, like what the layout of the resort's going to look like. You're great at that. What I'm not great at, like I'm not building a landing page for our
Marketing.
investors. I'm not, yeah,
Raising
XYZ.
money.
Yeah. And so it feels so good. And I've sat back and said, like, I don't want to be the boss. Like I've been the boss too long,
Yeah.
and it's not a role that I want. I'll own my slice
Yeah.
of a business, and I
Yeah.
will be a boss there and make sure it gets done. But
Mhm.
I don't want to be the boss of all of this. And going
It's
into
awesome.
business, remember, like I started a blog and was trying to make $3,000 a month. I didn't think of it as business. I had no business background. If you asked me then, would you want to be the boss? I'd be like, hell yeah, that sounds cool. But now I realize my skill set, it
Isn't lent for that?
isn't not at like a big degree, not being the boss of to a big degree of like a formal company structure. I'm great at leading. I'm great at hosting camp and the retreat. I'm great at leading that team to create an experience, but not in
Mhm.
a day to day. I won't even say corporate, but if people think of that in a day
Yeah.
to day, like the business has to run, and here are the things that a business has to do to run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Traditional
Okay.
CEO. I feel like
Yeah.
traditional CEO is maybe not yours, but maybe a CVO, which is a chief visionary officer. That
A
sounds
hundred
like
when
Travis.
we've done all that testing, it's like scoring way over here on visionary,
Yep.
0 on integrator or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm done. But I've had to play the role, and I'm like, I'm done,
Of
dude.
course, we
I'm
we do
done.
what we got to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I love this. This was a super fun conversation to have, and I appreciate you coming to hang out. If somebody so I usually ask at the end what one thing you're looking for. It sounds like you're looking for campers. Where can they go to find out if they're for you?
yeah. Go to Camp Indie, CampIndie.com. That takes you to the webpage of camp. Um,
So,
if you're listening to this pretty soon after it comes out, I have a discount code for my people. You
mhm.
can put EPOP, EPOP in there. It gets you $600 off your camp ticket. Um, pretty awesome price because at camp, everything is included. You can pay $100 extra if you want all you can drink, which is a great deal for a lot of people. If you don't want to drink, you don't pay that, but everything's included: your accommodations, all your meals, everything. So you basically get there and you don't have to pay another dime. So we like doing that all inclusive stuff because
Mhm.
most conferences don't do it. We found it to be super effective and a
Yeah.
better deal for everyone. So yeah, go to Camp Indie. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm at Extra Pack of Peanuts. I post sporadically. I go through modes of like, yeah. So I like posted a bunch of stuff the last couple of days, and then sometimes I don't. I just use it to show what I'm doing behind the scenes, and when I
Cool.
feel it's a good representation. But
Urge.
those would be the best two places. Like that's how you find out about camp. If you have questions, then just ping me at Extra Pack of Peanuts. Happy to answer them. And I would say, Tanya, this is a really. I know I've talked a lot, so I'll wrap it up with this. It
Okay.
just took me an hour and 7 minutes to describe camp, basically, right? Like I've always been looking for a succinct, concise way to explain it. And we just spent an hour talking about it and other stuff. Yeah, I've run it through ChatGPT a million times. We've done copywriting courses. We've brought in copywriters. I think the website does a pretty decent job. And still, I'm like, man, how do you encapsulate an experience? My son went on a field trip a couple days ago. He's 7, right? They went to the aquarium. And I said to him, hey, buddy, like, who'd you like hanging out with? Who'd you play with at the aquarium? And he kind of looks at me funny. He's like, everyone. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, what was your favorite part? And he was like, everything. And I said, that's camp. Camp allows you to be a 7-year-old again. Everyone is awesome, and everything you do is going
Everyone
to
is
be fun.
awesome.
And I just thought, if you want to take it back to 7-year-old on a field trip where everyone is fun and you do and you hang out with them and everything is great, come to camp. And so I'm like, dude, thank you. You as a 7-year-old human is smarter than ChatGPT. Thank you. The world is saved. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you telling people about it. I honestly think like, I mean, I know in-person events are my jam. Like that's where I want to go and hang out with my people or find my new people, whatever it is. I think anybody would get good stuff out of like anybody that's excited about things like that. Like those are the other people. They're moths to a flame. Like you guys are just holding the flame. The moths are coming in. So if you want to be one of their moths, definitely look them up. That was a really weird analogy that I just threw out there.
come
But
moths to our flame.
yeah, it's a Camp Indie flame. So thanks everybody for listening. Thanks Trav for hanging out with me for so long. And yeah, I hope you guys got something out of this. If you did like it, definitely give us 5 stars on, whatever you listen to podcasts on, and have an awesome day. Thanks guys.